Hello, and welcome to another edition of DevBeardOps, where it's the beard on the inside that counts. We actually had we skipped last week on DevBeardOps due to some other unforeseen circumstances, so we had a week off, and now it's time to go back into whatever it is we're doing. Yeah?
What are we doing? Let's think.
What are we doing? Yeah, but first of all, let go. What? That GitOps thing? Yes. This thing? Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, this thing. Sorry. The switching of the video still gets me sometimes, because what the apps do is what you see and what I see is not always the same, so left and right is confusing. But yeah.
Left and right is confusing. Cobus Bernard.
Yes.
So for all of you who are joining us for the first time, this is a show called DevBeardOps, where Cobus, my good buddy of mine, and myself talk about automation, DevOps, the cloud, and everything in between. This is usually a fairly laid-back show where we just kind of chat, talk to you, discuss specific topics, and sometimes even show some code, right? And we have a couple of folks here, so welcome all.
Andrew Brown. Hey, Andrew Brown. I follow you on Twitter. There's so much good content you put out there. I love reading your tweets and things. So
there
welcome.
Welcome, Andrew Brown. We have Flexi on here. We have JM Misiba. Pecky is here. Gert25. Hello, gentlemen and ladies, however you feel. Let us know, does our audio sound good? We just want to make sure, because we were fiddling around with microphones before we started. Just so it doesn't turn out to be like super quiet.
I moved my hamster.
Yeah. Cobus moved his hamster. Well, so today's topic actually is on the topic of GitOps, right? So the goal of today is to kind of discuss what is GitOps, what does that mean, should you care about it, how do you implement it, how does it all work within the cloud, so and a whole lot of things like that. So make sure to post your questions in the chat if you have some. So we're here to chat and talk to you. Thank you for the confirmation of the audio, and thank you for joining us, and as well thank you for let us know where you're joining us from. We usually have folks from all around the world, so make sure to put it in the chat where you all are from. So that would be cool.
So in case you're wondering about that, our clothing or our attire at the moment reflects where we are and what seasons we are in. Darko, as you can see, is in summer, and I am in winter, all the way down in Cape Town. Darko's in Berlin, Germany.
Berlin, exactly. So we flipped our own what do you call the seasons. So Jacobus is in the middle of winter, whatever that means in South Africa, and I am in the middle of summer, which means 20 degrees Celsius. So Southern California.
Oh, nice. Really?
Good morning. Good morning, 4 a.m. And welcome.
That's very early,
Yeah.
Cheapest. Yeah.
Canada, Pakistan, Switzerland, Zagreb, Croatia.
Awesome.
Welcome all.
This is actually a nice spread then, yeah. So for today's topic, Darko, we need to set the scene first. So basically we're going to be talking about how you should make all of your changes using Git as the delivery mechanism. And Darko's actually got a definition for us before we kick things off.
No.
And then I've got a warning. Before
we kick it off, before we talk about how to do things, let's talk about how not to do things. I think it makes a lot of sense how now we understand that you may be doing things like that. And that's fine. Sometimes it's out of your control in the way things are done. but we all need to aspire to better things. So let's talk about how not to do things. And when we talk about what are these things, first of all, Kubus, what are things in this case?
Things are anything you need to do to get your code running at the end of the day. So we're talking setting up infrastructure, changing configuration values and services, actually deploying the software, making changes to the code, how it rolls out, all of those things. Because the bottom line here is that humans are great for conversation and doing live streams and talking about things. They are not so great for remembering things in sequence and not making mistakes, especially not if there's pressure on, oh crap, something just broke. We need to get this fixed right now. So we want to preferably take the humans out of the equation with the work that we do to stop stressing about things.
Humans are wonderful at inventing things. Humans are wonderful at architecting things and making things work. However, we are horrible at doing things over and over and over and over and over again. So one of the things that people from the olden times decided to do is automate stuff, right? From the what is it called? The Pythagorean? No, Archimedes screw. It's some old guy in Greece. Archimedes screw, which would pull out water from a lake in a sort of a primitive automation. That's the same way we've automated things when it comes to IT, right?
Yeah.
So provisioning infrastructure, configuring infrastructure, deploying code, all of those things. When we talk about how not to do those things, and when we say not, we are exclusively talking about in production.
Yeah.
If you want to do it in your testing environments, if you want to do it from whatever stagings on your laptop, on your home network,
I kind of want to say practice what you want in production elsewhere as well, because if you're using the automation in one place and not another place, there will be surprises. Some will be pleasant and some will not be pleasant. Yeah,
fair point. Yeah, you should always eat your own dog food, right? Always try to practice what you preach, even in non-production environments. But hey, sometimes you want to do a quick thing and you may just decide to do it the wrong way. So the wrong way is, if you decide to deploy infrastructure, the wrong way is, and I'm gonna get people on my head right now. The wrong way is to click on things, right? I appreciate people who like mice. I find that fine. I spent most of my life clicking on a thing, but when you want to deploy a piece of infrastructure, let's say in the cloud, you should not do it by manually clicking on things. The AWS console is a wonderful place. It's great. It's been designed by wonderful people out there, by skilled engineers, and it does a great job. However, if you want to deploy a proper infrastructure to the cloud, in production, you should not click. You should do something else, which we'll talk about in a second. That's kind of a thing you should try to avoid.
Yeah.
Kubus, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say this. Sorry. The thing with the clicking is we're going to make a big caveat here today, which says that we're going to be talking about how to do things and automate it, which makes sense normally if you've got a couple of people doing, or you've got past experience on how to do it. What does tend to be a bit of a fuzzy area is like some people, if you're a one-man show, busy experimenting, getting things up, by all means, go click, learn, figure things out.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point where you need to start constantly making changes and repeating it, that's when this advice kicks in. So I just want to preface our discussion today before we get everybody saying, but why do we have the console?
Exactly. So console exists for a reason. It's all there. We want to make sure that you automate things, not because we think automation is cool, which we do absolutely, but because we want your day to be better, right? You don't have to click 100,000 times on a single thing. And I'll repeat my story. I've been working in a big company a long time ago, and we've deployed physical servers, hundreds of them. And I was one thing that used to be called a server provisioning administrator. My job was to provision operating systems on those servers. And I would do it manually because that was the way we did it. Literally, it was what people say here, ClickOps. I would use your favorite Java-based remote administration utility, log into it, mount an ISO with Windows or Red Hat Linux, and install it manually. Like every step was manual. Everything I did was manual. Even though I typed the commands in, it's still manual. It's still ClickOps. YOLO ops, exactly. And that was not great, right? For 300 servers, it would take me 6 months to deploy. And out of those 300 servers, I would screw up like 50 of them because I would just miss a step or do something. So you never had the exact certainty that I would do them all exactly the same. So yeah, that was not the great way to do it. Cobus, when it comes to delivering software, how not to do it? How not to deploy software?
Oh boy, there are so many ways. I think the worst example I ever saw was actually, it was at a meetup talk where someone was convincing us that it's not a bad idea to SSH to a server and directly edit the PHP code in place. Because I'm being dead serious now. They were saying it is, the idea is that you're solving a problem and then you don't have to worry about it. And I kind of went like, are you insane? So that was a meetup talk. That's the one. There's one more instance where it was worse than that.
Yeah.
So sit down, please. Which is, I've told this before on one of the other streams a few weeks back or months back. But basically, the production rollout process was the following. It was back in the days of SVN. There was a branch that said production dash with a date suffix.
Yeah.
Then there were other SVN branches which had features in isolation developed on those branches. And as we all know, when you develop a feature on isolation on a branch, when it comes to deployment time, you can cherry pick which ones you want. And you just say, okay, cool, release those features because that always works. Right. So the deployment process is as follows. Remote desktop to production server. Open up SVN.
Yeah.
Cherry pick merge between multiple branches. Open up Visual Studio Code. Please note this is the production server. Fix any compile errors. Once done, click publish.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's the worst production process I ever saw.
Okay, yeah. And we're all aware of the typical ones. Oh, it's a zip file and you copy the zip file onto the server, FTP to it. And, we've done that. It's not the first time, this is not something new. I've been guilty of it. And that's we've all done those things, right? I've edited code on a production server because that was a simpler way to do it. I remember us one long time ago, and this is not to deal with production code, but actually configuration code. So we had a Nagios, the monitoring system, right? And the way you configure it is you have a big old config file on the server, right? So the way we would version control it is that we would go SSH into the server, make a change, put a little comment there, who made that change? So I would literally put a comment, say, Darko made this change. Yeah, it's not the way to do it. So when we talk about deploying infrastructure, deploying applications, and deploying configuration, you should not do it manually, right?
No.
Hence, a thing people call, and I don't even know who invented this term here, GitOps, right? And there's a couple of questions here from V. Korana. I'll come to that in a second, but let's answer the question like every time we talk about DevOps. Let's answer what is GitOps. What is actual GitOps? And I have a fantastic definition here by the folks at CloudBees, and I stand by it, right? And 100 Days of Cloud, it's not, well, Andrew, it's Andrew. Andrew joined Twitch. Andrew, it's not GitHub did not create this term. I don't know even who invented the term GitOps, but it makes a lot of sense. In essence, GitOps is the principle that the only source of truth in your infrastructure, in your workload, is Git.
Yeah.
Any change to infrastructure, any change to configuration, any change to application code needs to have fully traceable commits. So you can audit, you can see who made the changes, and it's also versioned, right? Infrastructure, configuration, compliance, application, all of those things are versioned and are easy to roll back, right? So everything must sit in a Git repository. It does not have to be GitHub. It can be GitLab. It can be code commit. It can be Bitbucket. It doesn't even have to be Git, to be honest. It can be SVN. It just needs to be a code repository which you can interact with. So
I would say at this point, I think the benefits of a distributed version control versus SVN at this point, I would push you. There's be some very good reasons to stick to SVN, just because the branches are clunky. Trust me.
Never used SVN. I know SVN only from your experiences. So
well, Darko, let me educate you quickly. We moved from folders to CVS, which was a massive step up. Then we moved to SVN, which is a massive step up. And then from there was multiple ones. I think at one point Mercurial I was using a bit. We were using Perforce. And then Git came, and then we started using Git, and I was happy. So it's always a step forward. So there might be something after Git, post Git life.
Yeah,
then it's something else ops.
Exactly. So any version control system that kind of fits your needs, that can be distributed, that can be automated, is a thing that can help you here. So let's step back to the moment we talked about how not to do things.
Yeah.
And I think this entire GitOps discussion, we can extend this to a bunch of streams because there's a lot of things to talk about, right?
Oh yeah.
So before we get into those things, we have a lot of new folks joining the stream. Hello, people. Welcome to DevBeardOps, where two bald bearded guys talk about automation, DevOps, the cloud, AWS, and everything in between. It's not the beard on the outside, it's the beard on the inside that counts. So yes. You are more than welcome to be part of this, even if you do not have a physical beard.
Also, I'm going to forget this otherwise. I actually have something ready for the folks that if you are creating infrastructure by hand, just remember, Darko will judge you.
Koba's got a screenshot.
That's the face he's going to pull.
That's the face. Oh, God.
I'm going to have so much fun with that screenshot.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, yes, my face. So please do let us know. Let us know in the chat. Are you writing infrastructure as code? If you are you keeping it in a Git repo? And how are you deploying it? Do let us know.
Yeah.
Something else ops is trending. Something else ops.
Oh, it's Russell. Russell is a troll. But he's
a troll. Okay. Okay. So something else ops is always. There's always something ops, right? But in this case, it's GitOps.
So, in Russell's case, it's probably partner ops.
Partner ops.
Yes, he's from one of our APN partners. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
we have, like, for example, people here like Matt Hacks. No, sorry. Some of you are also using this. That's very good to hear. But Matt Hack, yes, they're using CDK Solutions constructions. That's a really great way to deploy things. We have folks here like Mohammed using Terraform.
Yay!
Yeah, there you go.
Sneak peek. 25 August, bookmark. This time of the day, we actually are busy working with HashiCorp. We're going to get one of their DAs to come chat with us about Terraform, which makes me super happy. And maybe I can convert Darko. Because I'm Team Terraform, he's Team CDK.
Team CDK. Yeah. So 2 weeks from now, we're going to have somebody from Terraform most likely to join us here on DevBeardOps, and we can talk more about automating infrastructure. So yay. All right, we have a couple of folks here like Hellstack using Ansible and Terraform. We have Flexion, who is using code and Git and automatically deploy to a pipeline. Those things, right? So I love the fact, and like for the people here like using CDK and Terraform, like so for folks like Matt Hack and Mohammed and Hellstack, that you're using your infrastructure code. Are you using Git? Are you committing this code to a Git repository? Not GitHub per se, but any of the Git repositories. That is also something you should think about and apply it, right? So CloudFormation. Hey, we have Andrew here using CloudFormation. That's okay. That's okay. You can use CloudFormation. CloudFormation is wonderful, right? So the important thing is about building infrastructure as code, right? That once you write things down, it's fine to have it on your laptop, but it can be better, right? So, Kubis can write his wonderful Terraform templates, and he can do Terraform apply from his own laptop. But then what happens if Kubis gets hit by a bus?
The Cobus.
What if Kubis gets hit by a Cobus and he has his prized laptop with him in his hand and the laptop goes poof, right? What happens? Yes. What happens then?
Well, firstly, you hope you hope that the command actually completed, because any kind of like mid infrastructure change that halts or freezes can be a problem. So That I think is the first thing is, like Darko says, don't run on your local laptop. Your connectivity can go down. Your laptop can break. You can spill coffee over a brand new machine. Ask me how I know. Coffee is conductive. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All of those things. So, and not even that, right? So, if Cobus decides all of a sudden to leave the company, right? He takes his code with him. The infrastructure may be still running, but I cannot make changes to it. It is very difficult for me to recreate what Cobus did on his laptop to take it somewhere else. So that's one of the reasons. A simple, very obvious reason why you would do this. The other reason has to do with finger pointing. Cobus, why do you think finger pointing is important? Well,
because if something breaks, I want to be able to, Darko, we've had this conversation. Why are you committing on a Friday night after you went to the pub?
Exactly. So there's another way to do it, in a sense that it's not just about keeping code somewhere. It's also about keeping track of who did what. When we deploy, when Cobus and I work on the same infrastructure code, we make sure that, it's quite visible what each person has done. Not because I can just tell Cobus, hey, encrypt your buckets, but also that I can, kind of like understand what he's working on and what changes has been made. And if something actually goes bad, Git diff is a wonderful tool. You can actually see what things have been changed inside of whatever you've been doing, right? So keeping your code, your infrastructure code, well, actually keeping any code in a Git repository is always the better option, right? So yeah. A couple of questions here in chat. I want to answer this question. We got it at the beginning from, where is it? Scroll all the way up here. V Korana. Yes. I hope I got that. Is GitOps an option for deploying custom configurations by clients in EKS clusters? Currently, all pods sync these configs from an S3 on startup. Can GitOps help automate this?
Yeah. So 2 points or 2 parts to this. The first part is that while you're just talking about configurations for your pods, what also is important here is like, how do you actually get your services running in Kubernetes, and specifically EKS in this example. I must confess, this is one of the things that the first time I started playing with Kubernetes in earnest, I went like, oh, this feels like there's a lot of great stuff about Kubernetes. Let me get that out straight first. The part that bugs me is kubectl apply YAML file. It scares the daylights out of me because it feels like a massive YOLO command. It's literally use a YAML file with anything in it, service, ingress rule, pods, whatever you want, and it just goes ahead and applies it. It doesn't track it. So it doesn't manage the state change between the different things. And so that bugs me. So I would say look at something that allows you to do that. There are quite a lot of solutions out there that help you with that, and also specifically in the GitOps space. The second thing here is like syncing the configs from S3 on startup. Just remember, configs with running, and specifically running containers in a microservices world where you've got multiple copies of the actual pod running is very, very interesting, and also very, very challenging, because while it reads it from S3, and when it starts up, that's great, and it works. If you make a change to, let's say, your config value and you push that to S3, that's great.
Yeah.
Yes. The config has changed. When does that kick in for the actual app that's currently running? And the second part of that is, how do you stagger that in a way that it doesn't break? Because let's say you've got 5 copies of your app running. All 5 of them see new config out there, and they say, ooh, yippee, new config, let me restart. Thud, your service is down.
Exactly.
So that's actually a very, very interesting scenario to deal with. It's like you want to kind of make the change so that it can roll out. So let's say you're changing the database username and password. Guess what's going to happen when you change it? It's going to break the prod, because guess what? If they've got connections that with sockets open, they should be fine. I don't know if the database server will actually close the connections. I don't think so, because it's on connection authentication. But what will happen then is, if they, for whatever reason, restart, you scale out, it's going to be broken until your config hits the config in production and the other instances know to restart.
Yeah.
So it gets complicated.
Yeah. So this is where, having it read from somewhere passively could be a problem. And I've seen people do this, right? And it's kind of, it was a viable solution. Don't get me wrong, right? Especially before a lot of these automation tools existed. That was a viable solution. Put your configurations on a remote place and have things read from it. And then I can see the comment here by Vikorana again, is that basically the microservices have to be restarted. And that's an option as well, but just be careful, because how do you restart them? Do you stagger them? Like, do you do one by one, or do you just do them all? And if something's broken, you have to YOLO back, right? So those things as well. When deploying things gradually, you have the ability to see if things work as they go along, right? So
yeah.
Okay,
And then,
a couple more comments and questions here.
Yes. Let's see quickly. So just quickly at Stella's one, why Darko finds the next question, or at the pub. That was actually my Friday evening routine at one point, because I worked helped a friend out with a gaming project that was actually deployed released on Steam, and they initially had their build server sitting in a room with an ADSL line connected to it and deploying. So on Friday nights, what I did is I set up a AWS cloud instance with Windows, and then literally from the pub, Friday nights at 7 after work, because that was, the pre-kid life where I could go out on Friday nights, and would sit there, open up the laptop, spin up the instance, hit the deploy button in Jenkins. It would do all of its things, and I'd just close my laptop and continue with my beer. So yes, Friday night deploys at the pub.
I did similar things back in Dublin. It wasn't the fastest of deploys, and I would definitely say it's not the most precise of deploys I've done from a pub. But hence you need to automate things. You don't want Drunk Darko to deploy stuff into your production. You want to make sure Drunk Darko just does a git push and just goes away back to drinking. So
I don't know if I trust Drunk Darko with a git push though.
Pull request. I make a pull request. You need to check it out, right? So there we go. I have you to help.
Good thing I have that branch protection rule that says you can't merge only a PR Darko.
So, okay, we have a question here from Andrew. Again, I'm learning Terraform for my free course, right? But uncertain if Terraform Cloud does GitOps, like if you have a remote state, is that GitOps or is it still one step away?
That's a tough one. The reason for that, just for those not familiar with Terraform, how it works is that you define your infrastructure inside your Terraform files using a specific configuration language. Right. Then what it does, it says, okay, cool, let me go check what you've currently got defined against what I see in your, wherever it is that the provider is pointing, let's say AWS or a whole bunch of others. They've got like more than 100 now, last time I checked. And then what it does is that when it makes changes, it actually saves that in a third location, which is the state file. So what it does is does a comparison between those three to figure out what's the desired state, what is currently the reality, what was the last snapshot I had, and what difference do I need to apply to it. So the state file does make that interesting, but effectively, if you think about, let's say, comparing it to CloudFormation, I'm sure CloudFormation also stores some kind of information in the background. I actually don't have any information about how it knows what the state was that it last ran. The difference being it's an integrated service inside AWS, so you're abstracted away from that. So you don't actually interact with that. So it's a difficult one to say yes or no. Storing state is always a problem.
It always is.
Because it's not like you can't put your database in Git. Well, you can, but it's a bad idea, and it's depending on how you do it. So it's a tough one. I don't have a clear answer, unfortunately. But I would say if everything gets pushed through this, and you make sure that your state file is hosted somewhere other than a hard drive that you control, and it also needs to be backed up and versioned, because then if something bad does happen, because it happens now and then, you can always revert to a previous state and then just roll forward again.
And here's a great comment from Pythonic, right? Kind of relating to this thing. Don't state files contain secrets?
In Terraform, yes. There are ways to mask some of them, and there are ways to get around some of those things, but by default, yes. So the state file is something that you have to keep really secret. You don't want people to share or to access it.
Yeah. Don't keep the state file in a Git repo.
Yes.
Right.
One way to deal with that, just quickly, is what you can do is give your developers full access to development and staging, and then propagate the changes through to production without giving them production access. So the only way to make infrastructure changes is by following your chain of that, but the developers themselves can't actually execute Terraform against production, because that way they can't get the state file, they can't set values. The only way is through the proper pipeline to get it to production.
Exactly. Awesome. So kind of following up on Andrews, is GitOps in infrastructure as code? Is GitOps infrastructure as code in a repo plus CI/CD? A part of it. It's part of it, right? Because GitOps means that everything you do in your workload, from your infrastructure code, from your application code, from your configuration code, from your audit code, from your user access policies, all of them are sitting in a Git repo. All of them are, Git is the only and true source of truth. in everything, every change you make to your whatever it is, infrastructure, application, configuration, audit, user access, is done through Git, right? In essence, don't click, use Git push. And that's the whole point.
Oh, we need a shirt for that.
We need a shirt, yeah. Don't click, Git push. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
cool.
so yeah, that's kind of the way you think about GitOps. The goal is that every change you ever make needs to be traceable. And what's the easiest way to make it traceable? In a Git repo, by having a commit ID to your name, which is just wonderful. That's how it works. So yeah, that's one of the things here. There's a question from Ulasek. Ulasek. How should you safely handle deployment infrastructure automatically? Is manual approval of everything still? I would say here it really depends. And what it depends on is how much do you trust yourself and your colleagues. That's one thing, right? You need to have it depends, yes. You need to have this ultimate trust built into these things. You need to be able to have not just trust, but you need to have these verification things in place. For example, you write your infrastructure, right? So you spend your days writing your Terraform or your CDK or your Ansibles, whatever you do, right? And you decide, this is what I want. It runs on my laptop. It works. I've tested it. Terraform apply. Do you have the tests and the automatic gates in place that will say, okay, I've deployed my infrastructure code. Does it actually check, is it what I want? Do you have your unit tests in place? Do you have some of the integration tests in place, even for infrastructure? Infrastructure is code, so treat it as code. So if you have all of those things in place, you can absolutely apply it automatically, right? However, you need to have a way to roll back automatically. So having a way to kind of roll back to a previous state is just paramount to do this. And by using infrastructure code, plus pipelines, plus deployment tools, you can, right? Okay.
I want to throw one thing in there. Roll back, roll forward. Figure out what works for you. Because rollback doesn't work for everyone. Roll forward doesn't work for everyone. Figure out what you're most comfortable in terms of fixing problems and do it that way.
Right. Exactly. So there's a lot of things, especially with the infrastructure, because a lot of things depends on the infrastructure, and it takes much longer to deploy infrastructure than it takes to deploy code, unusual, because you provision things that take time to spin up. So it may take you longer to roll back as well. So having parallel environments is also a thing you can do depending on the criticality of your environment. If you have a static web page, static blog, and it fails a deployment, it's fine, right? You can just wait an hour to roll it back. It's okay. But if you're servicing a banking institution and one of your front ends or back ends fails because of a bad infrastructure deployment, you may want to think about deploying to a parallel environment and using that once you make changes and then just flipping your blue greens and whatnots, right? So yeah.
And also the thing there too, the last bit of the question is whether or not it's a manual step. That also really depends on your environment. Some environments allow you to just automatically make changes. Other environments have like a legal requirement saying some human has to review something with potentially documentation, with a manual. Yes, this is good. So it really depends. I mean, I would always advocate and push people to say, listen, get to the point where you can do everything automatically so it just rolls out. It relieves a whole lot of stress and it allows you to do small changes very quickly. Because you do one change, push it out, you start working on the next one, keeping an eye on the side, like, is this going out? It should go out with tests and things in place to actually sort that out. So
the ultimate answer is depends. Do you have your testing tools in place? Do you have what is the criticality of a service, etc. Right? So there is no clean answer to this one, unfortunately. Okay, Samsvi asks, this is just question not related to this thing. ECS versus EKS. Yes. Let's go on.
That's a very hard question.
It's a very hard question.
I don't want to spoil anything. Ask me again in a few weeks. There is something coming at some point that we'll release soon.
Okay, so Let's talk about that in a few weeks, right? All right. So before I continue to a lot of more questions, thank you. First of all, thank you for chatting. We love seeing the interactivity in chat. That's what we were here for. We want to chat with you. We want to get your questions. We want you to ask us things. So please feel free to do that as well. For all the new people joining the stream, welcome. We love having you here. Just to kind of introduce, this is DevBeardOps, where two guys like this talk about automation, cloud, and everything in between. And today's topic is GitOps. What is GitOps? Should you care about it? Is that important? And whatnot. So, yeah.
So, I've picked the next question because I like this one.
Do it.
Secrets. How do they fit into GitOps? So, the how should I put it? The sellout answer here would be the best secret is the one that you don't have to deal with.
Yes.
Which means if you can use anything where you don't have to actually manage the secret, update it, change it, feed it into whatever system needs to use it, that is honestly the best system because that means that you don't have to deal with it. A great example of this is if you're using a DynamoDB table. Use IAM permissions to access it, which means there is no username and password. That is the only way to access it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about rotation, etc. If you do have to worry about it, like a lot of people, like third-party API keys, credentials for things, then there are a couple of ways. One is you could say, listen, well, let's make it a read-only mechanism where I go into parameter store, secrets manager. If you're using Vault, you go into there, you change it manually by hand there, and it's a one-way process where you go and change it, and then it replicates out and actually does it. And the important part is it needs to do that automatically. So whatever system uses that secret needs a mechanism to know when it changes and also what behavior you want in the app when it does change. Do I restart immediately? Do I stagger restart between multiple services, etc.? One other way that I've actually implemented as well is to use encryption for this, specifically KMS, where you can actually have the secret encrypted with KMS. So you create a profile where let's say the developers can encrypt, but they can't decrypt. So I can encrypt a new secret. I store that in the Git repo. And then what happens is the deployment pipeline has access to decrypt it, but also to encrypt it with a different key. So it grabs the encrypted value, decrypts, and then pushes it in using a different encryption key that the service can access, which is a one-way pipeline then for making changes to it. So that's how you can have it in the Git repo, and it's useful because sometimes someone might go in and click and change a password, and you're like, no, that's not right. Roll back to what it was, and you can version control it as well.
Yeah, and there's a question here from like Pedram. It's kind of related to this one. I was wondering, how do you handle secrets? Like doing GitLab variables or manually inserting secrets into AWS Secrets Manager. Deployment is done. I can say one thing. Some of the services we have, some of the tools, CDK. If you deploy an RDS database with CDK, it will create the key, the password for the database, and store it in Secrets Manager. You don't even have to see it at all. And then you can retrieve that key later on with the application with API access. Boom, like that. Yeah. So, but otherwise, you can sort. Like, what is it? HashiCorp Vault is also wonderful, right? That's just a great tool. And there's other different ways you can do it. If you use Chef, encrypted data bags, and a whole lot of other things out there exist. All right. Secrets or parameter store can re-roll. Secrets Manager can rotate your passwords. Yeah. What it does, it actually just basically runs a Lambda script at a given interval, right? For example, if you wish to replace a password on an RDS database, there's an already built-in Lambda script that will do that. It will just change the password to something, it will store the new password in Secrets Manager. If you have your own API, if you have your own thing somewhere in the backend, which you can interact with the Lambda function, you can also roll the password for that one as well. So, yeah. All right. So
this one more for Darko, because I remember asking you this at some point because I wasn't sure if CDK or CloudFormation supported, but I do believe there is some dry run functionality.
Yeah, so you can do like I wonder if you have a pull request, generate your change set. So you review the change set. Yes, exactly. So when it comes to CloudFormation can generate change sets. And change sets basically show you what's going to be changed. It's not like Terraform plan. It's not as pretty as that, but it basically shows you what changes will be applied. So I think that's great. And ultimately, one of the things you can always look into is like when CDK deploys code, it converts it to CloudFormation, right? And it basically synthesizes a bunch of CloudFormation. And if you git diff that, you can actually see what exact things have been changed, because CDK can sometimes be cryptic in what it does because it's a programming language, so it does a bunch of things for you as well. So Yeah.
Well, good things.
Yeah, good things. Hello to a lot of folks here. We have folks from Tokyo. We have Heitor is here. Alexander Melnik is here. So welcome folks. Welcome to the live stream. It's a pleasure to have you all here. All right. Today, when we talk about GitOps, we're mostly focusing on infrastructure as code. We will be talking about other parts of GitOps, such as configuration and even secrets to an extent, and audits somewhere down the line. But remember, GitOps is not purely about infrastructure code.
Yeah.
Any change you make in your system should be done through Git, no matter what the change is, right? I know some things cannot be done. There are, of course, limitations, right? Are you using a legacy system that only supports a native Win32 application to interact with? Sometimes it's not that easy, but those things exist. I had a friend once. So we were managing a system, and there was this old application that would handle RAID. And the only way to configure RAID on that system was through a Win32 application. Basically, a thing you need to install, and there's like an application, and you need to click a whole bunch of buttons to create a RAID group, and fun. The problem was, like, to automate that was impossible, right? There was no API, there was no underlying CLI, there's nothing you can do manually, automatically to kind of create those RAIDs. So the friend of mine used a tool called AutoIT. It's a scripting utility that it can script things, but it can also move your mouse. So he made it so that he would script the thing when it would open this application, and the mouse would go and click on the different buttons. It's a thing, it's a way, but it's not the best way possible, right? Auto hotkey as well, right? That's a thing, but AutoIT was a thing that I used. This friend used a long time ago as well. So okay.
It's a shameless plug, but I want to probably plug from Heitor, just because he's nice.
Heitor is wonderful. By the way, we're going to get Heitor on the show one day. I've spoken to him.
Yes,
so
we need to do that.
We're going to get Heitor on the show so he can talk to us about Lambda Power Tools for Python. But yeah.
Yes. Speaking of, there's the link for it to you folks. If you don't know about it, definitely go play with it.
Yes. So, you're sharing his Twitter thing. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, make sure to go and check out Heitor's Twitter. There's a bunch of things launched right now for Python Power Tools. So yes, that's something you need to definitely check out if you're writing your Lambda functions on AWS in Python, and if you're not using Lambda Power Tools for Python, you're doing something wrong.
Say it 3 times quickly.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. So now,
there are a couple of good questions that we have to work through, Darko.
Okay, bring them up.
Before we get to the one that I really want to, which is, I think, going to be a very interesting discussion, is this one. New AWS Change Manager. And I know, Darko, you've played with Change Manager, because I do understand there's Change Manager, there's App Config, there's Secret Manager, there's Parameters. So quickly, give us the rundown.
So the Change Manager basically is kind of a front end to all of your operational changes through AWS Systems Manager. It does fit into the line of GitOps because things here are controllable via API, right? So let's say you have a change that needs to occur on a specific date. Change Manager is just a front end for all of those things happening, just like an approval thing. And this is because some organizations require this type of governance. It's just, are you a financial institution? Are you a government office? You may have legal or just internal governance requirements to have these things. So people do this stuff through pull requests as well, right? It's not a be-all, end-all service. This can be done through pull requests and merging and all that stuff. But it's something that can help you on that. So let's say how this would work. I am an operations engineer, and I decide I want to trigger a specific operation, rebooting a server, making a change somewhere, making a change to my Ansible scripts. I can commit those things to a GitHub repo and make a change to like an execution pattern of a specific run job or a run command on Systems Manager. The change can be created in Change Manager, and somebody above me, Cobus, can go into the Change Manager and say, like, what does Darko want to do? Like, oh, Darko, you asked for a change on a Friday evening during a holiday. No. and you can just deny the change, right? And this is kind of just a control feature to kind of prevent some things going in. If you have a fully fleshed out system where everything is just going through Git and you can work with pull requests and merges and all that stuff, this is something you may not need. But some organizations require this, and it makes it quite simpler than building things out completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, for now, for the fun one, let me just make sure I click on the right one. Are you ready?
Ooh. Okay. Differences between GitOps, DevOps, DevSecOps, DevML SecOps, DevBeardOps. I wouldn't call them. I think there's no difference in these things. DevOps is just a. Where's my book? I had a book here. Did I lose it?
You had. No. Where's your orange book?
My laptop is on the book. DevOps is just a set of practices, tools, and culture shifts that help you be really fast in IT. GitOps is one of those tools. GitOps is one of those practices and one of those cultural shifts that belong in a DevOps environment, right? It's nothing. It's not a separate thing. It's not a different way of doing things. It is part of DevOps. And if you want to add SecOps and MLOps and ClickOps and all of those things, they're all kind of part of DevOps. If you are, and DevOps is intentionally vague in the thing it is, because it's always up to a discussion what it actually is, right? So. Yeah, and as Alexander says here, DevBeardOps is actually the most advanced approach to handle anything. Yes. So if you have trouble with your infrastructure, if you have trouble with your Terraform, if you have trouble making a good barbecue, DevBeardOps is the way to go. Are we going to write the DevBeardOps handbook someday?
No, but we are going to take you up on your idea of the DevBeardOps barbecue session.
DevBeardOps. So yeah.
We just need to get on the same continent at some point.
Exactly. So somewhere in the future, Kobus and I will be on the same continent in the same place at the same time. So expect something in person from us. Yeah.
When we can travel again, because I mean it's actually hilarious because I only met Darko in person before he joined the team. So we haven't met in person since when was it? 20? When was that? Was for
2019.
2019 sometime. Yeah.
2019. Yeah. So yeah, it's been fun. So yes, DevBeardOps is just if you get asked to do your infrastructure code.
But I mean, just quickly on that, what you tend to see at the moment, DevOps has kind of like become a hot marketing buzzword. Everybody wants you to buy X number of DevOps units and apply it on your infrastructure, and that'll solve your problem. And now from that, we've got the DevSecOps, the DevMLOps, the ML DevOps, the ML Sec DevOps, etc. It's sometimes a buzzword, and often what happens is that people will use that in the marketing sense to try and sell something to you. Like, we've got the perfect DevSecOps solution for you. Come, let us show you how to automatically shift your security to the left. It is the left, right, not the right. And sort out all your problems. Just deploy this one great package.
And when you were a consultant, how many units of DevOps do you buy per annum? Do they come in boxes, or is it just YAML, or what?
So I normally went for at least 5 units, because that tends to be like a baseline that most people needed. And I mean, what I did do is, if it's especially big company, I would go for 50 plus, because then you can get the DevSecOps auto enterprise version integrated into those 50 units that you just bought.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to clarify for people, we're completely shooting the breeze, talking random nonsense. Yeah. Yes. No.
DevOps is not a physical thing, right? DevOps it's very difficult to explain. There's no single definition to DevOps, even though we like to talk about it. But it's basically a collection of practices, tools, and frameworks that is, remember, constantly evolving. It's not a thing that I have invented DevOps and it's like this is the wheel, right? No, it's constantly changing through time. So it is, even the wheel changes through the time. So yes, it's something that is something it's important to you, right? But it's not the buzzword. It's not something you can buy. And even if you call yourself a DevOps engineer, you're not building DevOps, right? You are working in a DevOps environment. Even that's a bad thing. You are applying the DevOps practices, tools, and cultural shifts to your working environment. I'm standing by that. So
I'll actually quickly get that one. I think it's the DevOps topologies. There's a very nice site with some of the anti-patterns with a bit of a description. Yeah. Yes, let me quickly share that link. But quickly, one other comment over here from Kelstrick around all the different titles that are out there at the moment. So before I joined AWS, I actually did a fair bit of consulting with different companies. And the thing that I found out there is that when you speak to the people who want to hire you, they speak about what is the problem they want you to help solve. They don't speak about, can we get you as a release engineer? Can we get you as a this engineer or that engineer? So have the conversation rather about what are you trying to solve? And then we can figure out where does team structure and how do I fit in and cross-team collaboration, all of those things work. It's like, don't just chase the title. It's
exactly. Yeah. Do what you think is the best in this case, right? And if they push back on you, tell them two bald bearded guys told you to do that, right? And send them to us. We'll explain. So just to answer a question here from TypeScript Tea Time, I love your username, wonderful. Even though I'm not a TypeScript person, but TypeScript Tea Time, chef's kiss. So is there a feature management tool like Launch Darkly from AWS? Ideally, automatic commits to a Git repo, so all feature flags changes are in Git. So, no, I'm not sure about the Launch Darkly tool. How does it actually work? But there is something, happening from Python Power Tools. Check out if you're using Lambda functions and Python. They have a really nice feature flag thing coming up. So make sure to check it out. And Alexander is actually just posting a link in chat. So make sure to do that. But there's also a tool called app config. A tool called app config actually basically enables you to do feature flags, right? Set among other things, right? Basically set up application configuration on top of AWS, and it's done through JSON files, and you can basically commit those things as well into your application. So you can do that technically through those things. And actually, let me show myself as well. My most viewed video on YouTube, by the way, my most viewed video on YouTube is on app config. So if you're interested in app config and watching a younger Darko from a year ago, you can check out the video there as well. So if you're interested in app config, younger, more naive Darko, who thought COVID is going to be long gone by today, but no.
Yeah. I miss young Quibus. He was awesome. He could solve any problem, no matter what. It's like he knew every answer to every question. I miss being that smart.
Oh well, but one thing I love that we have such an amazing audience. I really want to thank all of you joining these streams. We are doing these streams because of you, right? Because of all of the folks joining and asking questions and being part of this. So thank you very much. We like that. Please do let us know. Let us know on little social media there, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Carrier Pigeon, whatever you like. Let us know if there's something we can talk about, if there's something of interest for you, right? But for next week, next week we are going to be continuing the topic of GitOps, but we're going to move from infrastructure to actually what's on the infrastructure. So things like application configurations with app config, with feature flags, things like operating system configurations, right? Not everything is serverless. There are EC2 instances. Imagine that. Not everything is a container. What? So sometimes you just need to configure an operating system. How do you do that? Do you use Chef? Do you use Puppet? Do you use Ansible? Those things are also part of GitOps. And those things also should be pushed across the vast sphere of Git and pipelines to do what you want to do, right? So... see, Hator is like, hold my beer. Yes, right.
So, Hator, you've just volunteered yourself for a session on that. Not everything is serverless. Hold my beer will be the session name.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Hator set up a Chef server that's running serverless. Well, I've seen WordPress. I've seen WordPress running serverless, so that's fun. Make sure to join us next week. And I think somebody asked here. We basically have a show every week at Wednesday at the same time. So it's 1 p.m. Central European time or whatever is your local equivalent. Twitch.tv/AWS or any of the channels on below, even Cobus's LinkedIn page, wherever, right? You will see us. Yeah. Make sure to join. Make sure to ask questions. We like having you here. And if we're doing something wrong, let us know. We want to make it better. Sometimes we get sidetracked to a lot of reminiscing of the good old days.
Squirrel.
What? we reminisce of the good old days from time to time.
Oh, the good old days, the bad old days.
Yeah. So, we talk about speed and agility now, right? And everybody's expecting speed and agility, and it takes, you're like, oh, please deploy 5,000 servers for me, and I want it in 17 minutes. You can do that. A long time ago, it took a while.
If your account limits allow it, let's just caveat this.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of, quickly, a nice, very, very good pro tip. If you've got a new AWS account to future-proof yourself, send in a request for 250 T3 Nano instances. And saying you want to use it for load testing, because that increases the total count you can run in your account for, I think, all of the instance types last time I checked. So it's a nice way to just get that just one per type limit increased. It kicks off something, if I remember correctly.
Only the best of tips from Cobus Bernard. That's what you all join us here for, right? The hot takes on limit increases on top of AWS. So yeah.
And the dad jokes.
In the dad jokes. We didn't do a dad joke today, but next time.
I sent you a lot the other day. What were they?
What's orange and sounds like a parrot? A carrot.
Yes.
I'll get my coat. I'm sorry.
Yes. No. I want to get to. There were some quite good ones. What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie? Sophisticated.
Oh my God.
What did the ocean do to the beach? Nothing. It just waved.
Stop. We're gonna lose people. Yeah, they're not going to come back here anymore if we continue doing that. We need to educate people, not make them cringe. But with that being said, it's time for us to go. Make sure to join us at the same place, at the same time, next week, where we will be continuing talking about GitOps, this time configuration, maybe some even secrets management and all those things. So thank you all for joining. And yeah, we had fun. Yes, hope you also had as well. Yeah.
And learn something.
And learn something.
This is educational, right?
Exactly. It's educational. That's what I said to myself as well.
Yes, and that's why we've got great backgrounds like this.
Well, we can't only show the background. Like I can hide you. No, I can hide my...
Yes. Oh, no, you took yourself off the stream.
No. Yeah. See you all. Goodbye.
Adios.
Goodbye. Adios. Bye.